So I really feel like a kid in the candy store. There are just so many topics in the MMA community I want to talk about. Patchy Mix signing with the UFC. That was the main guy when, the whole PFL implosion happened, and it's still happening. Patchy Mix was one of the guys that I really wanted the UFC to pick up. He's only 30 years old, really young, and he's just now reaching his peak, I feel. So a video about that will come out today, tomorrow, or the next day. Also have the video of John Jones swinging high school around. Absolutely gonna make a video on that. But I want to talk about this welterweight division and the fact that this is one of the greatest divisions currently that we have seen in the history of the sport. We're gonna go through it all, but before we do, I have to go back to last night's main event between Gilbert Burns versus Michael Morales. I picked Michael Morales to win. I thought he was going to win by a very dominant decision. I thought he was just going to back down Gilbert Burns, do a shit ton of damage, and I honestly felt that, can I say that? Or, yeah, we're past a minute. I honestly thought that Gilbert would retire after this fight, but it's not looking like that. He did release his statement. Maybe he'll do like a retirement fight in Brazil, which can go one way or the other. Go over to Sheriff. But yeah, when you go in against Gilbert Burns, and I know Gilbert Burns is old and he's past his prime, close to his retirement. When you're able to go in there and absolutely demolish a former title challenger, a guy that was a Justin right here. There we go. Um, a guy like Gilbert Burns who was in there with Usman, in there with Jorge, in there with all the top guys that are now phasing out. You don't see this from many fighters. There are very few fighters that have the talent that he has. And before we go on to Michael Morales and then ultimately where I see him ending up in this division and the fights that I want to see, you got to go over to Gilbert Burns and what Gilbert Burns has meant to the UFC. So last night, it got ran through. There's no way around it. Michael Morales had no issue against him, and he got him out of there in 3 minutes and 39 seconds. Before that, though, he lost a unanimous decision to Sean Brady, who just beat Leon Edwards and is a top 2 contender, depending on whether you have Sharp Cut number 1 or whatever. Jack Della Maddalena just won the belt from Bilal Muhammad. He got TKO'd in the third round, but he did really good against JDM in that fight. Got JDM down a few times. And this fight against JDM was the reason why I went with Bilal to win the fight. And then before that, he was fighting, speaking of the devil. Remember his name after the JDM fight, Bilal Muhammad, where he lost by unanimous decision at UFC 288. These are only two top guys. But again, a 4-fight losing streak. I would much rather see him retire. Maybe he goes out, gets one more win, retires that way. I don't like seeing fighters going 5, 6, 7, 8-fight losing streaks. It gives me PTSD. Nearly every fighter that I loved in the UFC and the sport of MMA ended up going on crazy losing streaks. BJ Penn, Rampage Jackson. Basically all of the old guards that I grew up watching. He beat Jorge Masvidal. Jorge Masvidal was retirement fight before I went, well, retirement when he was going to fight Nate Diaz in boxing. which he lost, but I thought that he won the boxing match. Then you have him submitting Neil Magny in round one. And Neil Magny, never broken into the absolute top of the division, has been around the rankings for years. Lost to Hamza Chimaev, but did really well against Hamza. Hamza was the first guy to bring him to a decision and actually gave him a bit of trouble. Stephen Thompson, he beat in 2021. You go back to the Kamaru Usman fight in February 2021. He knocked down Kamaru Usman. He was doing really good at the start of the fight. I know that him and Usman trained too, so he had to go to a different camp and all this stuff. He beat Woodway by unanimous decision. Again, that's Woodway 2020. It's a good win when you look back on Damian Maya. He TKO'd in round one. Did a bunch of grappling, beat a bunch of guys. Jake Shields. Eve Edwards. Shout out Eve Edwards. Gunnar Mountain Nelson, Mike Davis, and then nobody really knows. But it happens to everybody. He is, how old is he? He's 38. Will turn 39 July 20th. Yeah, I want to see him retire. I get it if you do a retirement fight in Brazil. I don't want to see Gilbert hanging around. But then you look on the flip side. The man who sent him out in the first round, Michael Morales, 18-0. You know, I have my doubts about Michael Morales, and I still do. I kind of have that with every undefeated fighter because we've seen so many guys, Dominic Reyes, even though he's rebounding, that are, 12-0, 12-1, make it to the top, lose the title fight, and then they go on a little skid, whether it's a mentality thing, whether it's damage they take in the championship fight. But you look at what he's done lately. KO Gilbert Burns in the first round, KO Neil Magny, both performance bonuses. Jake Matthews, he went to a decision with, but he beat him comfortably. Max Griffin, Adam Fugate, he TKO'd in the third round. Trevin Charles, he KO'd in the first round. On the Contender Series, won by unanimous decision. And before that, finished all but one of his fights outside of the UFC, all in the first or second round. This guy is a beast. This guy has legitimate striking. And two, you have to know, a guy from Ecuador, that's another market for the UFC to get into. Even though the UFC, for some fucking reason, will not have fighters fight in their home country or their hometowns anymore, it's another guy you can enter a market with. And now, with that being said, with Michael Morales breaking into the top of the division off of a really good performance, I'm going to assume that Gilbert Burns, where is he now? Gilbert Burns, he dropped down to 14th. I could see them doing like Vicente Luque and Gilbert Burns or like another veteran fight. Just send them out. Maybe Colby Covington. Well, I mean, Colby Covington's done as well. Well, like, you look at this division. You have JDM, the champion, that just beat Paul in a really good fight. Bilal Muhammad, who just lost, had one of the greatest performances he has had. And actually won fans over. He won me over. I was going insane watching this fight. Bilal, he is 36 too. You have to keep that in mind. Bilal won't be around for that much longer. Sean Brady, his only loss is to Bilal, the former champion, and since losing to him, submitted Kelvin Gastelum, beat Gilbert Burns, submitted Leon Edwards after dominating him for 4 rounds. Walking Buckley. You guys know I'm a walking Buckley stand. I think Buckley is the best guy in this division. He's so entertaining. He knows how to market himself. Um, TKO Colby in his last fight. Yeah, Colby got him down. Still found the finish. TKO'd Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, former title challenger, had a really close fight with the Woodway. A lot of people thought he should have won the title. Rusev, who just got a knockout yesterday. A really good performance by him. He dominated him, outgrappled him, took him down multiple times, did a ton of damage. TKO Vicente Luque. Again, another notable name in the division, a veteran of the welterweight division. Alex Morono, he beat by decision and KO'd Andre Figo. And his last loss was to Chris Curtis up at middleweight. Ever since moving to welterweight, Buckley has been a new fighter. Then you go on to Ian Gary. With all of the jokes aside, Ian Gary is really good. He's early 30s, just beat Carlos Pratas. Apart from the last minute of the fight, he he was controlling the entire fight, landing a lot of really good combinations, and he's only going to get better. He has underrated grappling, was able to go toe to toe with Shavkat Rachmanov. Even though I want to make it clear, Shavkat won that fight. I see a lot of Gary fans saying that, oh, well, he beat Shavkat. No, he did. He did better than a lot of us thought he would, and that's why people look back on that fight more fondly than they should. For that, though, beat Michael Venom Page in a fight where I thought MVP won. Jeff Neal, another close decision. Neil Magny, he TKO'd. Uh, D-Rod, he TKO'd. And Keenan Sung. We all know you can get it. The most logical fight for next is if Walking Buckley isn't fighting for the belt next. You do Buck versus Cock. You already have the promotion for it. Then you have Shavkat, who should be fighting for the title next. One we will have to see. And then you look down. It's really not until you get to outside of the top 15. While Carlos Partes just cracked into the division before losing to Ian Gary, was on a massive TKO streak. Carlos Wheel, he's right up there. He lost to Renat Pacarino. But TKO Manu, Mena, Marcio, Breno, lost to Sadabosai. Wheel was really good. Ryan Battle, I know he had that boring fight with Randy Brown in his last fight. He had a no contest against Angel Lusa, but he has been finishing a lot lately. Gets the crowd booing him. The main goal of any media driven company, whether it's the UFC, WWE, a TV show, you want to strike an emotion with the audience, and Brian Battle has done that with his gimmick. Uh, Tadina Jokolani on a really good one, just TKO'd Elijah Zaleski, beat Jared Gooden, beat Reese McKee, rebounded from a 3-fight losing streak. Gabriel Bonfim rebounded off of the TKO to Nicholas Dolby. Mike Malott. Mike Malott just had a really good performance. You guys know. I want to see Malott reach his potential, and then further down we don't really need to go over most of these guys. Either they're early into their UFC career or veterans that have never really been in the top of the division. But to end this off, having Gilbert Burns be taken out the way he was against Michael Morales, having Leon Edwards be ran through the way that Sean Brady ran through him, eventually all of these guys will have to fight each other. Well, we're gonna get Ian Gary Buckley. We're gonna get Ian Gary Brady, Walking Buckley, JDM, all of these fights. And, you know, I think it was Lucas Tracy said something along the lines of, we're probably not going to see any long title reigns anymore. And I especially do not see it happening in this welterweight division. That is only going to get better. We are going to have more Michael Morales. We're going to have more Walking Buckleys. And you look at the history of this division, it's the belt that GSP held. It's the belt that Matt Hughes held. BJ Penn came up and grabbed that belt. The history, Usman, everybody that has won that belt, you're carrying that history. You are a part of that history. Well, Muhammad is a part of the lineage of the welterweight title, whether you're the biggest Bilal fan or whether you hate Bilal. But regardless, man, I am excited. I am excited. We had a lot of dull months this year, but we're hopefully getting the big fight. We're getting Topuria, Oliveira. We're getting JDM versus Makachev. We're getting the greatest fight of all time, I feel, at middleweight with DDP and Hamza Chimaev. Well, let me know, what do you think about Michael Morales' performance, and where do you think he will end up in this, what I would argue, top 5 division all time in the UFC? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm interested. What you have to say later.